Hey everybody, it's Instructor ENGL. I hope you're having a great week. It's time for the instructor lecture, and then after this lecture, after you've watched this, go ahead and do some light reading that I'll be assigning, and then get ready to answer those questions on the discussion board regarding this video and the assignments. Well, I know we're reading some great poetry. I don't know if any of you have been exposed to these authors prior to this class, but I'm telling you, there's a slew of important authors coming out of this English Romantic period, and I mean, many of them majorly famous. I hope you're enjoying what you're reading thus far, the interesting and scandalous lives of some of these people. It's just a really cool time period. It's one of my favorite of all the things I've read, of all the classes that I've taken. I love this period. I love this movement. Politically, though, what's happening during this time is something that we could or might overlook. In American Lit, we hit it pretty strongly, but what people fail to understand is that this political thing that was occurring at this time period was a global issue. So what I'd like you to do is look at two pieces, and one I think is a little surprisingly, that have to do with this political thing that happened in this time. And that thing I'm referring to has to do with slavery. It's very easy when you're looking over this textbook in this section of romantic poetry to kind of read all this beautiful, lyrical, dramatic, scandalous material and forget that there, even in England, was a massive issue and political war, so to speak, philosophically speaking, about slavery. So there are two small pieces. One is on page 90. This is a lyric by John Newton, and I would say I would be surprised if any of you had not read this before or heard it sung. And I want you to go over to page 90, John Newton's very famous song, Amazing Grace. Now, what's essential for me here is there may be like 100% of you who could quote it to me right now or sing it. But I really want you to look at the preface to this piece and read about John Newton's life because it's very interesting. There are some points I think that are interesting and for the discussion. And I want you to look at those lyrics after you read that introduction and really think about what those lyrics are saying. Then I want you to think about the journey that John Newton was on, what he was involved in, and what you think happened or transpired to change his belief system and to change his feelings or the things he was perhaps complicit in with regard to slavery and slave trading. Now, I'm telling you, that's not something that you know a lot about unless you just happen to be investigating the background of hymn writers, right? But I want you to think about now the second source that I want you to look at, in addition to that, this is just small reading here, but I think it's important to note the slavery problem and the slavery issue that was going on in England as well. And that is on page 96. This is a piece by William Cowper, and you can read the preface to it. I would love for you to do that so you know a little bit about the background. But it's this poem that is called The Negro's Complaint, and it is on page 96 and 97. There is an interesting stanza which asks the question, the big elephant in the room, to these observant Christians about their God and about those people who were slave trading, who said they believed in God. And I want to read that to you right now, and please read the entire poem. But I just find this very interesting, and I think it's worthwhile. Listen to this stanza. Is there, as ye sometimes tell us, is there one who reigns on high? Has he bid you buy and sell us, speaking from his throne, the sky? And in that stanza, it continues on, and basically he's saying, has God told you to do this? Is this something that is God ordained? And if not, he answers it. I don't want to tell you the answer. I want you to read it for yourself. And if not, then why are you still supporting this? Why are you still doing this? And so both of these pieces, I think, talk to us a little bit about the problem, but not just the problem, but the moral issue behind the problem. And thinking about jobs and business and economy and bucking the system and doing what's right. And herein lies the rub, everyone, as Shakespeare might say. I really want you to hone in on this, because for me, everything relates to how can we take this to our own lives and apply it. So I want to say, have you thought about the things that we do today, that we do because it's convenient, but it's not necessarily the right thing to do? And I want you to think about the things as people that we take for granted. Well, that's just how it is. Sometimes we say, well, that's just how it is. I wish this would be different, but that's just how it is. Are there things that we're doing that we shouldn't be doing? Or have you even thought about any of that? I think about pollution a lot. I think about a lot of moral issues. And I want you to be thinking about, are there things going on in our society today that need us to really stop and think about, why are we doing this? Why do we perpetuate this? Why must this continue? So anyway, number one, I want you to look at the preface to Amazing Grace and think about the author and the journey and the awakening he had. Number two, I want you to look at this poem called The Negro's Complaint. And I want you to think about the questions it poses and kind of the social responsibility that it suggests. I mean, almost with a finger pointed at society. You're doing this, but how have you sanctioned this? How have you rationalized this? How have you justified this behavior? Okay, that's my 7-minute lecture for the week. Listen, these are short pieces, but I really want you to think about slavery and other things that we do to one another sometimes that we don't even think about. We take it for granted, or, oh, that's just what we do. That's just what we do. Anyway, lots of stuff going through my mind right now. I want to hear your feedback. Hey, I've enjoyed, by the way, your essays thus far in your discussion board. Keep up the good work, everybody. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.